I'm gonna put the Regenerator in D tier. They're just not that interesting to me. Resident Evil 4 is my favorite video game of all time, and it's probably your favorite Resident Evil game, but our opinions on the game are very different from each other, which is why today I am going to rank every enemy in Resident Evil 4. Will my rankings match up with yours, or will you disagree with my list? Without further ado, let's get into it. So the first enemy we have are the Castle Knights. So in Resident Evil 4, in the castle section, you get to a point where basically you have these Las Plagas controlled knights. We also see them during Ashley's segment, and to be quite honest, I really want to see these guys in the remake. But in terms of atmosphere, they are very creepy. So this might come as a surprise to you guys, but I do think these are an S tier enemy. They're not annoying and they're not overused, and visually they look pretty cool. Oh man, the Bella sisters. I really do like these enemies. I mean, it's pretty much just Dr. Salvador, but I think visually they are a little bit creepier, and that might be a hot take. So yeah, they're pretty much the same thing as Dr. Salvador. Them wielding that chainsaw is terrifying, but they're also enemies that I wouldn't freak out over, and I wouldn't really care if they're not in the remake. So I'm gonna put these guys in B tier. I'd say they're right in the middle. They're not the worst enemies, but they're also not the coolest in the game. My boy, Chief Mendez. Okay, so Chief Mendez in his boss form is absolutely creepy. It's a very unique design, and as an enemy, he's not too annoying to fight. I like everything about Mendez. I like his design. I like how terrifying he is. I just wish we got more of him in the original game. But man, Chief Mendez is definitely an S tier enemy. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a fact. I'm just kidding. That's just my opinion. So this actually made me laugh when I saw this in the tier list, but the boulders. Yes, I am considering the boulder to be an enemy. Okay, yeah, it's not an actual enemy, but it's still something that's trying to kill you. But yeah, I mean, it's just a giant rock. You know, it's like SpongeBob said, you know, it's a rock.
It's not just a boulder. It's a rock. A rock.
The boulders are pretty iconic to me, but they're pretty annoying to run from. So I'm unfortunately gonna have to put the boulder in C tier. Ooh, so now we have the castle enemies. So this is a ranking for all of the castle enemies. The atmosphere that these characters add to the overall castle is really cool. And plus, I think these castle enemies are just much more terrifying. I mean, they have shields, they have crossbows, they have maces. So yeah, these guys are pretty cool for being a common enemy, which is why I am going to throw the castle enemies in the A ranking. Oh man, you guys already know. My boy, Dr. Salvador. But drop a like on the video if you think Dr. Salvador should be in the Resident Evil 4 remake. Okay, so this one is tough as well, because I think the Bella sisters look a little bit creepier, but since Dr. Salvador is pretty much the exact same enemy, I am going to throw him in the B ranking alongside the Bella sisters. Ooh, now we got the zombie dogs. So the dogs in Resident Evil 4 are actually pretty scary. Yeah, these dogs are definitely pretty scary. I mean, just look at their face. So I think when it comes down to the dogs and how scary they are and how intimidating and just menacing, I'm gonna have to put the dogs right alongside the castle enemies. We got the big salmon himself, the Del Lago. Del Lago is complicated to me because I really love his design, and I actually really do like his boss fight as well. But in my opinion, his boss fight isn't anything to go crazy over. I love how unique the fight is, but I just don't find it to be that good, at least on Chief Mendez level of good. So the Del Lago is a really cool boss fight, has an amazing design, so I'm gonna have to put the Del Lago in A tier. Oh man, we got the bear traps. All right, I'm doing another like challenge. Drop a like on the video if you cannot stand the bear traps. But my God, I can't even tell you. I know exactly where every single bear trap is in the game. And even to this day, I still step in them. But yeah, when you're getting chased by a horde of Ganados and you step in one of these, good luck. But the bear traps are pretty annoying, and since they're not an actual enemy, I'm gonna put this right alongside the boulder in C tier. The El Gigante. Again, one of the most iconic enemies in Resident Evil 4. But yeah, his entrance is super intimidating, super brutal. But yeah, El Gigante's fight is really cool. And he's a very unique and different type of enemy. And I also like how later in the game, you end up fighting two of these guys at once. So the El Gigante, he's not the hardest boss fight, and he's also not the easiest. And he's also not overused in the game. And honestly, he is one of my favorite enemies. So I'm gonna have to put the El Gigante in the S tier. Let me know if you guys agree. Next up, we got the Garrador. So yeah, the first time you run into this guy is in the prison cell. And once again, he is also not an overused enemy. I really like his design. I like the concept of this character on how he's blind and he's only attracted to noise, much like the Lickers. And he's just a very ruthless enemy. If the Garradors weren't blind, I feel like they would be very deadly. But the Garrador has a very awesome design and a very cool concept as a character. So I'm gonna have to put the Garrador in S tier right alongside these three. Man, S tier is looking pretty spicy. Next up, we got the ceiling trap. I'm just gonna tell you right now, I'm just gonna throw it in C tier. When you walk in, Salazar gives some boring dialogue. He runs out and then the ceiling starts to close in. You have to shoot the red lights and then boom, the trap is over. So yeah, the ceiling trap is going in C tier. Alright, so now we're getting to the island section of the game. And first up, we have the minigun dudes. Look, these guys are super annoying. As an enemy, they are pretty cool, and I like how they're in the game. But they also don't quite fit Resident Evil. I like their design, I like how cool they are, but as an enemy, they're not the most fun to fight. So if I am being entirely honest, I'm gonna have to put the minigun guys in C tier. Next up, we have the Parasite. So yeah, these guys, pretty annoying. And I think any sort of bugs that crawl around can be pretty annoying. But these enemies aren't too special. They're nothing to go crazy over, but they're also not like the worst thing in the game. So this is surprising, but these Parasites are gonna be my first ever D ranking. But they're the same thing as fighting like little ants or little spiders. They're just kind of there, you know? Alright, so we have one more trap to go, and that is the iconic laser room. So yeah, this room is pretty interesting. But like I said with the other booby traps, I'm gonna have to put the laser room in C tier. But don't get me wrong, this room is super iconic. But yeah, it's going in C tier. Next up, we got my boy Krauser. But Krauser's actual boss fight is pretty cool. I like his character concept and overall design. But when it comes to the story of Resident Evil 4, when you really think about it, he doesn't exactly need to be in the game. So as much as I like Krauser, I'm gonna have to put him in the A ranking. So the Novistadors. But yeah, these guys, pretty annoying. I like their character design. I like their concept. I like how these guys can turn invisible. But fighting these guys in packs is extremely annoying. I like everything about these guys except fighting them in groups. But because of how unique they are to fight and because I really like their design, it creates a different type of atmosphere and I really like that. So I'm gonna have to put these little bug guys in the A ranking. So Sadler, the big bad of the game. Can I just say it right now? I'm gonna have to throw Sadler in S tier. I really like his character design, but Sadler's final design is really cool. And I really like his boss fight. So yeah, Sadler is going in the S tier ranking. Next up, the little man himself, Salazar. Man, he better be in the remake, because if he's not, I'm giving the game a 0 out of 10. I'm just joking, I didn't mean that. But seriously, I really like Salazar's character. Even though I like his design and his final boss fight, the difference with Salazar is I like his chemistry with Leon. How they go back and forth with each other, throwing jokes at one another. Their dynamic is pretty funny, and it adds a lot of charm to the game. But yeah, Salazar is going straight up in the S tier, right alongside Sadler. Next up, we got the Burning Zombie. So nothing too special about this guy. He is more of a jump scare than anything else, but I really do like this jump scare. So I don't know if you would really consider him an enemy because you don't actually have to fight him, but I love the jump scare itself. And I don't know about you guys, but it's a pretty iconic moment to me. So I'm gonna have to throw the Burning Ganado in the B tier ranking. You guys already know, the Regenerator. Okay, so maybe I was trolling at the beginning of the video. I might have said that they deserve to be in D tier. Okay, all jokes aside, all trolling aside, I love the Regenerators, and they're arguably my favorite enemy in Resident Evil 4. Everything about them is scary. Their attacks, their concept, their design, the sound effects they make, and they don't go down easily. You have to use the thermal scope to take out the parasites. These guys are ruthless, scary, and terrifying. So did I make it obvious yet, guys? Because if I didn't, I'm gonna throw the Regenerator straight up in S tier, and he is going at the very front of the list. And since we're here, I might as well rank the Iron Maiden as well. So the Iron Maiden is pretty much a Regenerator, just stronger. They got spikes all over them, and yeah, you don't want to go near these guys. But since these guys are pretty much the Regenerators, just slightly stronger, I am also going to throw the Iron Maiden straight up in S tier, right alongside his boy here. Next up, we got the snakes. But yeah, the snakes are pretty annoying and they still get me to this day. I always know when they're gonna spawn and I still fall for it. But at the same time, you could remove the snakes from the game and nothing changes. So much like the parasite, I'm gonna throw the snakes straight up in D tier. Alright, so now we're moving on to the common enemies of the island. Again, nothing too special about these guys. They carry shields and maces and things like that. But when these guys are all grouped up, they're pretty threatening. So just like the castle enemies, I'm gonna have to throw the island enemies straight up in the A tier ranking. Next up, we got U3. I mean, where do I even go with this guy? You know what? Let me not waste your time. He's going straight up in the S ranking. This guy's design and boss fight and just the atmosphere he brings to the table is terrifying. I mean, look at his face alone. Out of all of my years of playing Resident Evil 4 since I was a kid, I have yet to hear one person who doesn't like this enemy. Yeah, no thanks, bro. I'm good. But yeah, he is a very efficient enemy, so he is going straight up in S tier. Alright, so now we got Verdugo. Honestly, I can't say much about him either. Everything I just said about U3, apply that to Verdugo. His concept is scary. His actual character design is amazing. He is fast, intimidating. I mean, any spectrum of scariness that you can think of, this guy fits into all of those categories. And on top of that, I really love his boss fight. But I'm just gonna make this easy right now. I am throwing Verdugo straight up in S tier. This guy better be in the remake. Last, but most certainly not least, the Ganados. Also, if you're wondering why Ada and Ashley are here, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know who made this tier maker, so I won't be ranking these guys. But the Ganados, I don't know what it is, but something about their design and their presence is just so unique and iconic. And the village sequence at the beginning of the game has a big part to play in that, because you're fighting off waves of Ganados, you're getting things thrown at you. You got Dr. Salvador coming out of nowhere with a chainsaw, but this right here is the same thing as ranking the zombies in the original Resident Evil 1. How can you not put the zombies in S tier? So much like Leon, I'm pretty much in a chokehold here. I have no choice but to put the Ganados straight up in S tier. They are extremely iconic, and Resident Evil 4 is nothing without these guys. But those are my official rankings of every Resident Evil 4 enemy. Be sure to leave a like for more and comment your rankings in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time.